Good morning. Today we are going to work on some suspension and see if you can see this. Not a good example. I'm not strong enough one-handed. I can do it with my knee. Let's see. There it goes. We've got some bad tie rod ends here and control arm ends. So we're going to replace all that. But first we're going to replace the shock absorbers. And I've got a new lower and upper ball joint for over here. Those aren't too bad to replace either. Maybe. But I think we are going to come around here. And we're going to start with the rear shock absorbers first. And the first thing we're going to do is pull off the upper part, and then we'll raise the car, I think, and we'll take off the wheel here and take off the bottom part, and everything should slide out nicely, I think. I haven't done this in a while. We'll see. But yeah, we'll start up there and we'll just take off the nut that's on the top of the shock, and hopefully that's easy. We'll see. They're predicting massive amounts of rain today, so let's come over here. It's already starting to build up, so we'll see what happens. But the clover's beautiful in the backyard and it's nice right now. It's supposed to be in the 70s. Perfect time for working on a car. We'll bring it back when I make some progress. Okay, we got all the hardware off here, and I bounced the car a little bit to push these off, and actually the top of the shocks went back in. But you can see how bouncy this car is. I think now because the shocks aren't connected at all, but it was bouncy. So underneath here, you know, we're going to go to this end. We're going to take off the shock down here. I don't know if you can see any of that yet. Well, we'll take the shock off the bottom, and we'll lift it up and we'll get it all done. I'll show you underneath. So on the bottom here, right here, it's just the opposite of the top. The top was a 15 or a 9/16, and the same here on the bottom. You do have to pull off the wheel. If you can get really high, you don't have to pull off the wheel. I can't. And so I'm going to try my where are you at here? I'm going to try my ratchet and see what happens, but that should just pull off. And of course there's, you know, a rubber bushing and a cap on either side of that. So when you get it all back together, you want to make sure you get all that together. And it's pretty easy. So I'll bring it back once I get this off. You know, here's the shock here, and this part's already loose. I can just pull that down. These are pretty worn. A little tougher when you're doing the new ones. So we'll see when we get there. Haven't done this in a long time. I can't remember. So, you know, we'll go up there and see what we get. So we got it loose, but if you see down here on this end, those nuts are a mess. It would not back out. So I'm probably gonna have to get in here, right down in here with my Sawzall, and cut that off. Hopefully I have a good enough blade I can do that, but what a mess. This is really stuck. Maybe I'll go to the other side and get a victory. We'll see. Okay, we got the win on this side, and there's the hole there, and I don't know if there's the hole up at the top. So super simple. And the shock just has two ends that you want to put the bushing on the upside first, then stick it in there and make sure you get all that set. The other side, I'll get that in a second. But what made this side a win was actually putting some nut buster. No, that's wrong. Blaster. That's it, on there. And that let the nut slide off that end. Not so much. I'll see what I can do with it and and maybe make it work. I'll bring you back. So if you look, there's a kind of small hole up there. It looks kind of large, but, and then there's a big hole down here. And on these bushings, one side has a large and the other side has a small. So when you put the shock on, you put the bushing on the top with the smaller hole and the bushing on the bottom with the bigger hole. And then we'll just stuff this up in there and get it attached. And then you've also got a big nut and a thin nut. The big nut is probably the one that goes on. The thin nut is probably the locker. And you got these caps. So we're just gonna make a rubber sandwich in the middle. And on the instructions, which have insanely tiny pictures, where does it show it? Where does it show it? Right there. And it doesn't focus. Right there, there it is. Don't squish it down, and don't use tools like that, but don't squish it down. You're gonna leave it kind of unsquishy. So we'll follow the instructions. What you see here is the aftermath. I did get this nut off. I had to take a 14 millimeter socket and pound it onto the screw or a nut and get it stuck in there, but we got it off. Always use some sort of nut remover or something, I think is the rule on this. But anyway, we got all that out. Now we just have a gaping hole where our shock was, and we'll put this one in, and we'll be done with the back, and we'll look at the front. All right, we've come around to the front here. We got the car jacked up, got the wheel off, and this is the top of the shock mount. And then under here is the bottom of the shock mount. And I don't know if we're gonna take off those, oh, there it is. Take off those two bolts that hold it up there, or what is it? I gotta get underneath there and look again, but we're definitely gonna take this one off. That's where we're gonna start, by taking off this cap. And then we'll grab some of this stuff. And we'll soak it up nice. And we'll do the same on the bottom so that we can get off that easily as well. And then I'll look into the upper and lower ball joints. I've greased these up. I've had a ball joint fail on one of these before. It was a lower ball joint. Everything went thunk onto the ground and screeched. I had just got off the freeway and got into my mom's driveway when it failed. Which was awesome because it was better at 5 miles an hour and not 75 miles an hour. And then we might look at some brake pads too. Huh, interesting. They're okay right now, but that probably needs to be done. I don't know. Front bearings seem pretty good, so we'll check into all this. But right now we're going to change the shock, and then I'm waiting on parts to do those, control arms and everything else. So, little bits at a time. I just spend money, $100 here, $100 there, and spend too much on shipping that way. But just get some parts here and again, and get this all together. So let me bring you back when I get. Good Lord, look at the size of that check nut on top of there. I've got my 9/16 for the bottom one. That's like a 5/8 up there. We'll see. 17 millimeter. All right, I'll bring you back. So yes, to keep the shock from spinning down here, up top, you just put a couple wrenches on there, and you can get all that off. I had to put a vice grip, on here. Down here, had to put a vice grip on the shock itself to get all this off. Then once you get those guys off, then you can pull out this plate, this plate right here with this nut, and all of this drops out. So pretty easy. We'll bring you back when I'm putting it in. All right, I did it again. I got busy and took all this down before I showed you, but yes, they're really straightforward. Oh, lots of shake. Super straightforward. Underneath here, you've got the shock going through the center there. you just take out that one little bolt, and that clamp kind of slides out of there. Brace, mount, whatever you want to call it. You just got to get the nuts off the bottom of the old shock first, and then get the new shock in there, push it up, get that bolt in there, and then get the locking nuts on there. These are the KYB. I don't think they're the gas adjust. They're another KYB, but the original Monroe type shocks weren't available in the US easily, and these were a kit that were about, you know, $60 less than buying the individual shocks. So the shocks are on, super easy. I am not feeling great, so I'm not going to do the lower or upper ball joints today. I think when I get all the tie rod ends and tie rods and everything, I will do all that in one fell swoop. We'll do the ball joints and the tie rods, and then our front end will be pretty clean. Yeah, the bushings, you know, these guys need to be redone. I've got some motor mounts to do and some other stuff. So there's always a lot of little things. Right now it's running and driving. I just don't like the play in here. This makes the front end just wobble a little bit. Kind of wanders while I'm driving. So that's scary. I don't need that. So I'll replace all that and tighten up this front end. There is a shop in town that claims they can do old-fashioned alignments with shims and everything, so maybe we'll get the alignment done too. But really, these tires are wearing pretty good right now. They've got about 1,000 miles on them, and they're doing well. So alignment's not too bad, but it will be after I do all this. I'll try and match the length. This is about the only adjustment here on the toe. Camera randomly shuts off, so I'll try and match the length on that, so it's all good or pretty good, and then we'll go from there. But you know, Ingrid's drivable and a lot of fun, and now it won't bounce around or move around so much because the shocks are actually done front and rear, and then we'll take care of that rest of that other stuff. All right, we'll talk to you later. Maybe I'll end this with a little driving around video. Have a great weekend. Get out and do your work in your Volvo shop or your Volkswagen shop or your Ford shop or whatever car you have. That are all just a lot of fun. Have a great day. Bye.